Well, welcome to Las Vegas, Sam.
Welcome to Las Vegas, Michael. Welcome to the US.
Sam, it's so lovely to see you in person again.
Thank you, Michael, and very much the same to you. It's always nice to be in the same place when we record.
Yeah, I agree. And if our listeners would like to see the place themselves, they should check us out wherever they watch their podcasts, because this episode is also being released as a video.
And trust us, you absolutely do not want to miss out on what we have got planned. So, Michael, shall we get on with it?
For sure. I'm Michael Bird.
I'm Sam Jarrell, and welcome to Technology Now from HPE Discover Las Vegas 2026.
We are back for HPE Discover Las Vegas 2026.
We absolutely are, and for anyone who hasn't come across it before, Discover Las Vegas is HPE's flagship annual event where we explore the changing world of technology and look to the future to see how we are going to be dealing with not just the problems of today, but prepping for the potential challenges of tomorrow.
Sam, I couldn't have explained it any better myself. And for this episode, we are joined by HPE President and CEO Antonio Neri to talk about the trends within the industry, how HPE is responding to them, and what businesses and organizations should be thinking about as we move through this now AI-fueled world.
Exactly, and as we're in Vegas, I believe you wanted to make your chat with Antonio a little bit more interesting, right?
Yeah, so earlier today, I invited Antonio to join me on a gondola, true story, to chat all things tech, all things HPE, and all things HPE Discover Las Vegas 2026. Antonio, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Technology Now. You'll notice that we're sat on a gondola.
Yeah, we're doing this while we're moving on water, which is unique.
It's a first for me. I don't know if it's a first for you.
I've been in gondolas before in Venice.
Okay. Well, we're in Las Vegas. We're at the Venetian for HPE Discover Las Vegas 2026. And I wonder if you could start by talking me through just some of the big announcements.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's great to be here with you and be able to share the story with our audience. This Discover was unique in the sense that it got us at the right time because of the closing of the Juniper transaction, and most importantly because we are seeing tremendous growth. And that growth is fueled by the demand across networking, cloud, and AI. So what we covered here at HPE Discover was the intersection of the three, and we spent quite a bit of time in the networking area because we talk about networking being the core foundation to enable this AI era, which ultimately will deliver the agentic enterprise. So we talked about, announcements across scale up, scale out, and scale across networking, amazing solutions with our QFX fabric, both for AI at scale and as well as training and inferencing. And then on the agentic enterprise, we brought the next generation of solutions as a part of our AI factory, which is our private cloud AI portfolio. So a lot to talk about, but also we tease the future with the intersection between HPC and quantum computing.
So lots of big announcements for this year's event.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did it together with our partner ecosystem.
I guess what I'd love to understand is how AI is impacting the way that our organizations are now just starting to build the infrastructure for their IT estates, in terms of how they're architecting it.
Well, remember, we have to talk about customer segments, right? So in the neo cloud service provider model builder place, you can see that the amount of CapEx being invested is enormous, right? I think it has been more than 150 gigawatts of power being announced. And when you think about that, when it's all built, it will be, 50 million GPUs very easily. And that will basically train these frontier models. We're all used to it. And those frontiers model will change the world forever. That's what we talk about powering the industrial revolution. On the other hand, you have enterprises accelerating adoption. And the way we know that is because the amount of inference is growing very, very rapidly. But ultimately, it's about becoming an agentic enterprise. What that means using AI to change the way you work. So AI will be embedded in everything we do, in your workflows, in your functions. And the reality is that the workforce now is not going to be just employees, it will be agents. And those agents have a cost, but it will have a knowledge that we haven't imagined before. So we have to manage both an extended workforce with agentic AI And also we have to manage cost and compliance and security, and that needs to be wrapped with the right governance.
Have you seen actually buying habits have changed?
Yeah, I mean, we see it ourselves, right? So when we think about our company, we already have 1,200 use cases using agentic AI, of which 250 are already in production. But the demand is growing every day because the organization understood that this has the power to change the way you work. So they are not worried anymore about, it's going to replace my job. It's more about how I use AI to my own benefit and for the benefit of the company. And we see the results of that. I give you a great example. When I do my operational reviews every week, what used to take 3-4 days in finance to prepare for that review, now it's a push of a button. And actually I get better articulation of the data, better visualization, and honestly, more transparency.
In your keynote, and as you mentioned, you discussed the rise of agentic enterprise. What are the most important enablers for enterprises to become agentic?
Well, first of all, you have to have a robust foundation, right? So it's like building a house. If you don't have the right foundation, everything else just crumble. And we believe that foundation is networking, because you have to connect all your applications, all your data, all your models in a secure, governed way. And so networking is actually the core foundation, but also can be the bottleneck because these models are expensive. And so if you don't maximize the utilization of the model and the GPUs, you're actually wasting resources. So that's number one. Number two, obviously you have to have the right governance and the right scale and the right data. And that takes a lot of work, but we brought it inside the AI factory out of the box. So you don't have to put all the stuff together. That's why private cloud AI now is the recipe for enterprises to adopt AI and to become an agentic enterprise. Then you need to have choice and flexibility. That's why our AI Unleashed program brings more than 60 partners into our ecosystem. And that allows them to pick the right model and the right partners for whatever they are doing. And so expertise matters, but ultimately trust matters the most. And we believe HPE can be that trusted partner.
Can you just talk through the challenges that customers face when they're thinking about scaling up, scaling out, and scaling across AI workloads, AI infrastructure?
I think you need to have a clear vision what they're trying to accomplish. Definition of use case is very important. The return on invested capital has to be understood and validated before you jump into it. And so that's why our AI Factor for Enterprise allows you to start small and then scale out in many ways as you grow, as you learn, because one success brings the next success. So this mentality of fail fast and improve is very important, because you're not going to succeed everywhere. You're going to fail along the way, but don't give up, because if you give up too early, you're going to be left behind.
And where do AI factories fit into this?
Well, that's the core enabler by which we enable you to adopt AI technology, because everything from the infrastructure all the way to the virtualization layer to the application layer comes tightly coupled inside our GreenLake cloud, and you decide where to put that infrastructure. We understand from customers, and I spend more than 50% of my time with customers, that they want to have more control around AI, and in particular around their data, than just start in the public cloud. They can do some experimentation in the public cloud, but when it comes down to really giving context, using their data to some of these models, they want to do it under their control.
When most of you, picture AI, you sort of think AI is in a big data center. It's like these huge data centers processing all this data, but actually AI at the edge is becoming more prevalent. I mean, why is that happening? And can you sort of give maybe some examples of where AI is extended?
When you deploy the models, what you're doing is inferencing these models with the data that you generated. And much of that data is created at the edge. Remember, 9 years ago, we talked about much of the data is generated at the edge. We talk about the concept of edge computing. Now we're talking about bringing that AI, which is the inferencing, to the data, where this model have been given context. Is more logical, is more cost effective, is for sure more secure, because you don't have to move data back and forth. And so that's why we see the edge as the next frontier, where you actually enable people who have to make decisions real time. Think about factory floors with robotics. You cannot experience that latency in the models. Think about hospitals where decisions need to be put in the hand of the doctors using AI models with MRI machines and other type of machinery to provide better care. And look, there is a lot of robotics surgery taking place these days. Experiences at the edge in hospitalities, right? So a lot of data is generated, but instant gratification. So that's why a lot of the inferencing will be done in distributed environments, but fundamentally is a hybrid model where both training and inference will live and coexist in centralized environment and in a distributed environment at the edge.
I mean, that concept of latency is really interesting because I suppose there's a connectivity conversation there as well.
That's right, and that's why the networking is the core fabric by which we enable the deployment of AI.
Yeah. So when we last met at Davos, I think one of the big topics was around sovereignty. And are you seeing that, has that changed? Are you having more conversations around sovereignty?
Absolutely, and at HPE Discover, we announced a number of sovereign solutions so that the sovereign AI clouds can be deployed faster. Certifications, regulations that are built inside this GreenLake cloud allows you to deploy, whether it's an air-gapped or not air-gapped, with a peace of mind that you are in compliance with those regulations, which is a big effort because to do that yourself takes so much work and so much effort. And so we build it at the core inside the fabric of the solution itself. But I have to say there is 10 to 12 customers around the globe, countries, that have the capabilities to deploy this at scale, and the conversations are accelerating, and the build out of the data center is also accelerating.
Yeah. And I think sovereignty can sometimes mean different things to different people. But when you speak to customers, what do they mean by sovereignty?
Having everything under their control.
Yeah.
Because including the impact to their culture, to their identity. Countries can lose their identity very quickly by using a model that was trained somewhere else other than their country. While that you can live with that, the fact that you are now giving data and context to that model is an opportunity to lose that identity. So there is a geopolitical factor involved here, and so people realize this is a big change and they want to have it under their control.
I remember the team at the Isambard AI supercomputer in Bristol, them saying some of the things that they're working on is non-English languages, almost creating large language models, but with languages other than English. Because I guess to your point, actually, if everything's trained in English,
that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so look, I don't know, I don't remember now how many languages are around the world, but those languages can lose their identity. Yeah. Everything is monolithic.
Yeah.
Right? So I think they want to see themselves reflected into this transition and maintain the cultural affinity that is core to who they are.
What sort of industry trends do you expect to see over the next 6 months or so?
I don't think it's about the next 6 months, but by the end of the decade, right, we're going to see the reasoning move into real intelligence. We can see that. Then obviously the manufacturing become more and more automated with robotics. When you give a specific purpose to these robots, they can do tasks extremely well. And so, look, it's going to change the way we live and work, right? And it's up to you to decide how much you want, how much you don't want. But I think history shows us that if you don't adopt some of these technologies, you're going to be left behind. And the concept of inclusion and equality is going to be very important.
Wow, I cannot believe you got Antonio into a gondola. That is crazy. And was the gondolier actually Italian?
I don't know, but they did chat Italian for a little bit. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know what they were talking about. Maybe how good the interview was, something like that. I think that the conversation we had around sovereign and sovereign AI, I think, was quite interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that's becoming increasingly an issue, especially because, with the rise of AI, different governments and organizations kind of have to take a zero trust approach to every company, every organization that they end up working with, and you don't want your models to necessarily always be used by the exact same other entity, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the agentic enterprise as well. We talked actually quite at length about that, and the fact this is a big trend that's coming, and we're talking about it a lot at Discover. Again, really, really fascinating.
Yeah, I loved hearing a little bit more from Antonio about like how agentic AI plays into networking as well. I know for his keynote, it's titled AI architected, it starts with your network. And I think when people think about AI, they often think of the model first rather than the network. But for us, the network is the foundation of everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's we talk a lot on this podcast about AI.
We absolutely do. It's one of our favorite topics for sure. And how come?
Well, I wanted to end the chat with Antonio on a positive note, but before we get to that, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The question is, what excites you the most about how AI could be used in the future?
I think what excites me most is the concept of how it can be used to battle modern slavery. HPE actually has quite a few initiatives related to that, and we are actually using AI to help combat modern slavery. So to me, the promise of that freer world is very compelling.
Yeah.
What about you?
Sam, I feel like I sort of have to out-Nobel you with your answer. So something around medicine, how AI could be used to cure cancers or solve incurable diseases by using drug discovery, things like that. That's the thing that I'm really excited
Forces
to.
for good, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly,
the point of it all.
Exactly. And I asked Antonio earlier a similar question, what excited him most about how AI could be used in the future? So let's take a listen to his answer.
I think we are scratching the surface. I mean, the potential this technology has is enormous, but I would say also comes with great responsibility. And, for me, ethics are a key component. And I believe, over the next 6 months, the private and public sector have to come together much more tighter than ever before. And so there is a lot of anxiety being built around, but that anxiety can be managed by the two sides coming together and be able to solve these problems before they happen. So to me, that's an exciting opportunity because we can advance society to levels we haven't seen before. And transparency is key because the one thing we need to address is trust. If trust is not built, it doesn't matter. Everything will fall apart very, very quickly. And so for me, it's how we build trust, not just within the business community, but within the consumer, the society. But right now we are kind of in the transition phase, a little like the dating phase, but there is a lot of work to be done.
Antonio, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the setting.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I want to thank the crew and the driver here. Grazie mille. So we can have fun. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of Technology Now for this week. Thank you to our guest, Antonio Neri. And of course, to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and if you've enjoyed this episode, please do let us know, rate and review us wherever you listen to episodes. And if you want to get in contact with us, send us an email to technologynow@hpe.com. Subject line
Gondola ride.
Subject line gondola ride. And don't forget to subscribe so you can listen first every week. Technology Now is hosted by Sam, Jarrell, and myself, Michael Bird. And this episode was produced by Harry Lampert and Eva Higginbotham, with production support from Alicia Kempson-Taylor, Becky Bird, Alyssa Mitri, and Janessa Ayosh. Our video editor was Alex Van Dyne, and our theme music was composed by Greg Hooper.
And our camera team were Branson Tarr, Carl Norberg, Gilbert Rios, Sam Wynn, and Libby Cook. Our social editorial team is Rebecca Wissinger, Judy Ann Goldman, and Jacqueline Green. And our social media designers are Alejandra Garcia and Ambar Maldonado.
Technology Now is a Fresh Air production for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and we'll see you at the same time, the same place.
Here?
Well, not here, it's a bit too hot. On the feed next week. Cheers.
Bye, y'all.